Today's Talk About It Tuesday question is, what are some things I should consider when trying to decide which new business to start? Well, there are probably 24 things you should consider when trying to decide what new business to start. But to make it simple, I'm going to narrow it down to probably the first 5 things that you should consider. And then beyond that, if you can get past that, then you can worry about some other things. So when we think about the number one thing you should consider is, what is your purpose or your goal for starting the business? Is it to replace your current income? Is it to do some type of social thing where you're trying to help people? Is it a secondary source of income? So whatever the purpose is, whatever you decide your goal is, there should be a monetary amount attached to that. So you'll have to say, I need to make $100,000 from the business this year, or I need to make $200,000 from the business this year. So the first thing you have to consider is, what type of business can bring you that type of income, right? Because it doesn't matter if you like a particular thing. If something hasn't demonstrated that it can produce the type of income you need to satisfy your goal and to be able to reach through your purpose, then it is not a good business model. So first thing, you have to have a purpose and a goal, and that business that you choose has to be able to sustain that. The second thing I would say you should consider are, what are the barriers to entry? So a lot of times we don't consider that. Is there a special license or permit that you need? If it's a physical place, is there a particular zoning requirement for the type of business that you're trying to do? Is there a very high startup cost that could be prohibitive and stop you from entering? Are there particular skills, specialized skills, or specialized knowledge that you need for a particular business? Those things can set you back very far. So you want to make sure that you're able to overcome whatever barriers to entry that exist in that particular business. Then after that, I'd probably say, is there evidence that this business can reach your purpose and goals? Meaning, you don't want to be a pioneer in any field, right? Untested. You don't want to go into and say, oh, I have this new idea that nobody else has ever done before, or nobody's ever been successful at before, but I just feel like. No, if nobody's done it, you shouldn't try to be the pioneer. But you shouldn't also get into an area that's oversaturated, where there's way too much competition, where you'll struggle to find your particular niche and find your way in that industry. So it has to demonstrate that somebody has done it before and there's success, but also that there's room for you to be able to enter into that arena with your particular demographic, with your particular niche in that. But it has to be something proven. You don't want to have to educate people on why it's a good product or service, or why they should use it. You don't want to have to struggle and compete with other people on a high level to be able to make your goals. So has to show evidence. I think the next thing is that it should be timely, right, and sustainable, right? I think those things go together, meaning the timing has to be right. I'll give you an example. Back in 2007, I thought I was being innovative, and I had a travel agency, but the internet was just really getting strong, so I had an online discount travel agency, believe it or not. I had an online discount travel agency when it was new, and I thought everybody would just look for a discount and want to do it online, but I was a little bit ahead of my time. People still at that time wanted to sit with somebody and go through the plans of planning out their travel stuff. So I didn't get a lot of business. And then a couple of other companies, and I won't say their names because you know them now, they're all huge, who had way bigger budgets, who had the patience and the time to be able to keep pumping it out and marketing and educating, were able to dominate that industry. So now nobody goes to a travel agent pretty much. Online discount travel is the thing. So it has to be timely, and then this has to be sustainable. So that was a sustainable model, but it wasn't the right time. And there are other things that you might think are timely, but they're fads, right? So you don't want something that's a fad, because it'll go up and down. and you don't want something that's on the verge of obsolescence either, right? So it has to be timely and it has to be sustainable over time. And then I think the last thing that I would cover as number 5 would be that it's scalable, right? There has to be room for growth. So if you're a sole proprietor, hard to scale that, right? Especially if you're doing something as a service, a one-to-one service, hard to scale that. You're going to reach a peak and not be able to grow because you can't duplicate yourself. So unless you were able to train other people to do it too, or duplicate yourself in another way, electronically or some other way, your business should be scalable. So it should have room for other products or services. It should have room to expand the system to be able to support a larger growth in your demographics. So what if you get far more customers than you've ever had? Is your system scalable to a point where it can reach that, but also not be so overwhelming in cost that it buries you? So scalability is really important. You test small, and then you grow over time. And if you don't have the systems in place, if your business is not right, you'll implode because you just get way too many customers, and that's just as bad as not having enough customers. So I would stick to those 5 things: purpose and goals, overcoming barriers to entry or understanding the barriers to entry, evidence of the ability for the business to be able to reach your goals. It has to be timely and sustainable, and finally, it has to be scalable. So if you find something that fits those parameters, I think you start doing your plans according to that, and then you start worrying about some of the other things down the road. But I think those things are the most important when trying to choose the right business. So I'd love to hear your input. Please keep the questions coming. Please like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next Tuesday.